Hey guys, this is Paranoid from server 802. We just won a server war, so I wanted to say great job to everyone. And I wanted to go over some of my generals and battle reports. First of all, we had a larger opponent in server war, and I think it's important to remember that we can still win server wars against larger opponents. We just have to keep a positive score. So we're all here at 300, 200, 600, even a bill. And our losses are much smaller. So for the most part, we did a good job at keeping a positive score. And you do that by playing smart, ghosting your troops, and attacking people that you're pretty certain that you can win. And I'll show it in my battle reports as well. So first of all, I'll go over my generals because the way my generals are built is the way that you want to build your generals, and it's the way that's I didn't invent it. I copied it from people that are better than me. So I copied it from people that play in All-Stars and really the pro level players of this game. So I'll show you first of all my Electra, and I only have a ranged general, but I'll get a ground general as well. I'm working on my Scipio, so I'll show my Electra real quick. As far as skill books, the important one you want to have is this one, the ranged troop attack range increased by 100. If you don't have it and the enemy has it, then his archers are going to outrange your archers, and he's going to have a big advantage. So the first thing you want to make sure is to have this one. Then usually the other one is attack bonus to ranged troops, but it doesn't matter if it's HP or defense. This is the important one. And of course, you want to try and maximize your specialities on your strongest general, on your strongest ranged general, which is either going to be Electra or Tomaris or Minamoto, one of the top 5 ranged generals. As far as items, whatever items you have, if it's an end game item like an Aris or a plant tangent, you want to try to maximize its refines, especially the range attack on the bow and the ring. So the ring has maxed ranged bonus attack, and the bow also has it really good. Here I have some civilization boots. So this is an end game gear. I invested a lot, like probably 300 or 400,000 gems and a lot of gold as well, just to maximize these bonuses, because I'm not going to get a better item for the next year or so. This is my end game item. An example of the helmet, for instance, I didn't invest that much in refining it, because if I upgrade this helmet to an Eris helmet, then the bonuses that I can get from refining it are going to increase from 20% to 25%. So I'm going to have to refine it again. And if I get like a plant tangent or a civilization helmet, then the refines are even going to be better. So I don't want to waste too much refining this right now, because it's going to get an upgrade. So but you can see it's all ranged. If you have a ranged general, you want to have everything bonus to range, as well as the pants, the leg armor, and the chest armor. You can see the chest armor here. The last one I have is ground troop defense. Again, I didn't want to, let's say if I try to refine it and I lock the 3 values I want and I refine, it's going to cost me 5,000 gems each time, and it's probably going to cost me like 50 or 100k to get a decent value here between 1 and 20. And this is not an end game item, so as soon as I upgrade it to Eris or civilization gear, I'm going to have to refine it again. So I'm just going to leave it right now. Defense is not the most important, so I don't care if I missed the one attribute here. The HP and the attack are more important, so keep that in mind and really try to get your general looking like this, basically. And the dragon as well. The attack dragon is the Celtic demon. I think I saw someone. Let's just check it real quick. On our rankings, let's see. General ranking. So Sleeping Cat has the number 8. You can see he has the purple dragon, the Fafnir, on his Electra. And the Fafnir, I think it gives bonus to mounted and not range. So I'll go check the dragons. This one gives let's see, his level 4 skill bonuses are marching range troop attack 10% and marching ground troop. So this is suited for range because it gives the mounted range troop attack 10%. And the Fafnir gives marching mounted troop attack 5% at level 2 and probably more at level 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you want to have this dragon on your mounted general and this one on your ranged general. And of course, remember to refine it. Try to get good refines here from the battlefield rewards. Now I'll show you my Subcity general. It's been mentioned before, but Subcity generals, these skills, the skills that they have, the only skills that take effect are skills that debuff enemy troops. And you can see here, reduces enemy range troops attack by 30%. The important things here are things that reduce range troop and siege troop attack, and things that reduce ground HP and mounted HP. You really don't care too much about ground troop attack and mounted troop attack too much, because any mounted troop that attacks you is usually going to die to your ranged and siege machines before they even get a chance to attack. So the important thing is to reduce ranged troop attack and ground and mounted troop HP. And make sure all your Subcity generals have these debuffs. I really like Andrew Jackson, and you can buy him free in the tavern. And Arminius also is really good. I don't think he's free, but he's really good because he reduces HP to the mounted and the ground and reduces the range and siege machine attack. So I really like him as well. I started to upgrade them because I have spare metals and spare gold, so I decided to upgrade him a little bit, just so the training speed in the city is a little bit higher, because I'm always using them to attack, so I need to replenish my Subcity troops. So I cultivated the leadership and the politics a little bit, just so the Subcities can recover faster and rebuild faster after war. So these are the Subcity journals that you want to have. As far as skill books, I haven't compared it to the pro level players, but I'm pretty sure they're going to use this or something very similar. So it's going to be construction speed in the Subcity, troop training speed in the Subcity, and subordinate city troops death to survival rate 5%. And when you attack and your Subcity loses all its troops, then the general dies. And this happens quite a lot. If you're attacking frequently, you're going to have Subcity generals die, and each revival stone is going to cost 1,000 gems. And I figure this might help me make the troops survive a little bit longer. So I didn't see any skill books that can debuff enemy troops, so I figured the only skill books that are useful here are skill books that help your Subcity, so I just put these on because I have a bunch of them. As far as gear goes, you want gear that debuffs enemy troops, because that's the only thing that takes effect. We said it before. So the dragon gear, I don't think you have anything that debuffs enemy troops. You do have some Eris gear, but the main gear you have that debuffs enemy troops is the Akamende gear. And you can see here, debuffs enemy ground and range troop HP 40% each. This is incredible. Same for the armor. It gives 2 debuffs, 35%, and so on and so on. Everything here has debuffs. You can also refine them. I haven't compared this with the pro level players yet, so I still need to check it, but I think you can just refine some of these items to give you better Subcity training speed or construction speed. It might be a nice help. I don't know. It's just an idea. I haven't refined them yet, but it's a low priority to refine them. The main thing is that you have your Akamende gear, which debuffs enemy troops on your Subcity general, and you also get a bonus from having the entire set, 6 out of 6 items, enemy troop attack minus 15%, and Do notice that when you craft the Akimende gear, first of all, you need level 33. So as soon as you get 33 and you get enough materials, then it's I think it's a big bonus to your setup. When you do go to craft these items, pay attention that there's two sets of Akimende gear usually, and one of them gives only one debuff, like right here, enemy mounted troop attack minus 20%. It's only one debuff, and the other one gives two debuffs. So range troop defense and siege machine attack. So this armor is obviously the better one because you get it twice, minus 20%, minus 20%, and after you upgrade the star level, it's going to be like minus 35 or minus 40 each one. So you want to get almost all the items to minus 40%. It's gonna be a huge bonus for you. And this helps when you attack and when you defend. So when you attack and you select your subcities to attack with you, you're gonna get these bonuses. When some places you can't attack with your subcities. Let's say you attack a temple, then you can't bring your subcities, so the subcity general isn't gonna help. When you attack a player, it's gonna help. Another point to make is during rallies, you can't add your subcities. So this only helps when I solo march cities. So if we're at the point that we want to rally a big enemy, then it's all about your general and your sciences. So you want to make sure your general is really strong. And part of the reason I'm not comfortable with rallying with some of the alliances on the server is I feel their general isn't strong enough yet. So a lot of people just have weak generals in the rankings, or they're not built well, and it's really gonna hurt us if we try to rally a strong enemy that has a lot of troops. And many of the generals here just they aren't built correctly, or they aren't built right. So this general is really well refined, high bonuses and everything, but he doesn't even have the attack range, for instance, which is he's just going to get outranged when he attacks. But he does have good gear. It's pretty decent, but this isn't even refined, and the star level isn't upgraded. So he's going to be like 500% below the enemy general or my general, for instance. So I'm a little bit worried about rallying just yet, but we're getting there. People are improving. So that's as far as generals. Of course, if you want to start upgrading your subcity, speeding up the buildings there, then you just get a specific general that can help you with construction speed before you start it. So I think I have Empress Wu, which increases the construction speed in the subcity by 75%, and you cultivate her politics, which can probably get to 1,400 or 1,500. And you can speed up buildings. I'm not gonna do it yet. I think it's a really low priority as far as I'm concerned. So it's really for later in the game. Though that's an overview of my generals, and we did win against a much larger opponent this war, and we traded really well. And I'll go over my battle reports to give you an idea of the attacks I made in. I think it's important to pick your fights. Don't panic if they take the temple, or if a big guy teleports. Don't pick attacks you can't win. Pick attacks that you're gonna trade even or better for the most part. Don't suicide your troops. So let's take a look at some of my battle reports. I try to scout larger opponents at least. If I see a smaller opponent, I'm just gonna attack him without scouting, which can also be a mistake. So I scout this guy. He's ghosting, but he does have a rally that's out and attacking. So I'm gonna try to snipe his rally right when it gets back, because he's on our server. He can't bubble. I can if I'm on my server, I can attack and then bubble when my troops get back, before they get back, so I know I'm safe. He can't bubble, so I'm going to try to snipe his troops right when they get back. I take a look at his general, Joseph Johnston, 2.6 mil power. That's like medium power. He's going to probably have some dragon gear, but not a really strong general. And his buffs, they're decent, 500, 600, but it's not that great. I know I can reach like 900 and 1,000 on my range, so I'm not too worried, but it's a decent general. It's not an empty general. So this is the same scout. I don't see his troops, but I'm going to try to snipe him. And I managed to attack this guy right when his troops got back, which he has a big march size. He's level 35 and he's much bigger than me. And I almost didn't lose anything and he lost everything. So let's look at the report. The main two things you want to see at the report are the troop buff. Near the summary, there's a troop buff and a battle detail. So those are the main things you want to check out to try to learn from your attacks. And down here you can see the general, power, reinforcements, and so on. So troop buff, we already saw during the scout, his troop buffs are around 500 and my range is 1600 defense HP. And let's look at the debuffs, and you can see my debuffs. Let's say the ranged troop debuff, I have minus 256 to enemy archer debuff, and he has 26. So what I said about the Akamende gear and the Subcity generals is very, very important, and it really comes to play. I can tell you this guy wasn't intending to defend his city because he probably doesn't have his subcities linked and he doesn't have a really strong wall general. And you can see that his debuffs are like basic science debuffs. So his subcities aren't linked. And mine are linked for attacking. So I have much better debuffs. So 256 to enemy attack. And his ranged troop attack is 593. Just remove 256 from it. And he's left with about 240 attack or 250 attack or so. Or, sorry, 350 attack. About 350 attack on his ranged troops and minus 1000. So all these debuffs and the Akamende gear really helps. If you have the materials for it, it's really expensive. You need to buy some packages and you need to complete the quests for using gems and for using materials. And a really good way to get materials is also doing Vikings. Make sure everyone in your alliance is doing Vikings and join all the rallies. Like I try to join like 500 or 200 or 300 Viking rallies because the materials add up. It's a headache, but it's really good for materials. So my buffs are better, but this was a landslide victory. So he has more troops and more power, but I won much better. So it's probably not just the buffs; it's probably also the troops themselves. And if we take a quick look. I send a layered attack of ranged troops, so I have a lot of T13 ranged and T12 ranged and so on. And I'll explain real quick. I won't do it on every battle report, just this one, just to explain you real quick what you're seeing here. I have ground troop. I have total 1,000 ground troops. 962 on the right side ended up in the hospital, and 38 survived. I have about 825,000 T13 range troops, so 787 survived, 787,000 survived, 48,000 went to the hospital, 14,000 ended up in the graveyard, and the range troop killed a total of 1,246,000 troops. So the range troop did up most of the killing, and it's obvious because this is a ranged march and all my troops are ranged. So they killed, in my T12 range troops, none of them died, and they killed 381,000 enemy troops. So that's how you read the report. The general is Electra, and I'm not sure there's anything else here down here. No, just all the layers. Just notice I have all the layers here. Every layer, T1, 2, 3, 4, and I have, I think 500 or 1,000 of each. Some of them have less here. I have like 50 of each and so on. Just have to make sure you have a few troops of all layers and some subcity generals here. The defender, who lost a lot, had mainly, he barely had any ground troops. He had almost no range. He had 1 million T13 mounted troops, and notice that 1 million T13 mounted troops managed to kill 1,295 of my troops and died. So they were basically useless. So Obviously, you wanna be careful when you're using your mounted troops for PvP, because if they run into archers, they're just gonna get zeroed. And these guys got zeroed, and they basically didn't kill anything. If they killed 1,295 troops, they probably killed my T-13 ground troops, which I sent 1,000. So that's what they got, and then they were zeroed by my archers. And then he had some siege and some T-12 troops. He did a little bit, but most of his army was mounted troops, T-11 mounted troops, 355,000 and so on. So I was lucky, and I caught him with mounted troops. I think even if he had ranged troops, I probably would have won because I have better buffs, but I would have lost like a lot more troops. And he had mounted, so he just got zeroed. So this was a good attack. Let's see here. Defense is lost. So this guy that I hit, he hit me back, and he caught the troops I had, and he zeroed me. So I don't plan on defending. I don't even have a wall general because I don't want to lose a wall general, and I don't have any defense. So if we look real quick, you can see my troops, my buffs on defense are awful, and my debuffs are pretty bad because my subsidies aren't linked. So my intention is to never get caught with troops home, and I messed it up, and I pretty much got my entire army zeroed, all my T-13 ranged and everything. He probably had a decent attack with some mounted, a lot of ranged, and ground, which is really strong. The ground destroyed me. So he caught me out, and I want to explain how he caught me out. So I rallied him, I won, and then I rallied him again. He ghosted, and when my troops were marching back to my home, I tried to bubble, and I got the red Wi-Fi screen, and I got disconnected, and I tried to use the truce, the bubble again. It mentioned that it worked, but it really didn't, and my screen lagged out for a few seconds, and when it got back, he pretty much zeroed me. So the lesson to learn here is you want to give yourself enough time to bubble. So for instance, let's just take a look at someone. If I'm gonna hit this guy, this level 28 guy, if I teleport here or even here, and let's say I teleport right here, and then I attack him. By the time I hit, I want to bubble before my troops get back, so he doesn't have the opportunity to snipe me. I want to be 100% safe. And what happened was I was like one screen away or so. I attacked him, and I tried to truce. I had the red Wi-Fi screen. My game lagged out, and when it reconnected a few seconds later, I was zeroed. So I learned that you probably want to be about 2 screens away and attack. And I think it's also really good. Right now I always teleport 2 screens away from my target, just because I don't want him to know that I'm gonna hit him. So if I see a target here, I want to surprise him. So I teleport about 2 screens away. I'm really calmly, relaxedly, I ghost my troops at one of the boss monsters around, and he doesn't see me 2 screens away. He doesn't know it's coming. I ghost my troops. I use all my buffs, the mounted troop, the troop attack buff, the march size buff. I use all the buffs I have, defense, HP, and attack. Ghost the troops, and then I hit him right when his army comes back. And he never sees it coming, because if I teleport right near him, he's going to be ready. He's going to speed his troops back. He's going to take precautions to make sure I don't hit him, or he's going to stay ghosted. So I do it a few screens away. I solo march, and I speed up my troops. I waste like 4 or 5 speed ups, and I usually catch him off guard. And then when my troops come back from the attack, I usually have like 10 or even 20, 30 seconds to apply my truce, my bubble. And I've seen a lot of players that teleport right near them and try to attack, and the enemy this time wasn't too strong, but I'm telling you, someone's gonna zero you. If you teleport near someone, try to attack him. If I see the enemy do it, I know if someone does it on our server, I'm gonna zero him easily, because he's not gonna have time to attack and have his troops back and bubble in time. So it's risky. These guys weren't too good, and I don't think they caught any of our guys. But just be aware, if you teleport right next to him, your troops are going to get back, and before you have time to use the truce, someone's going to zero you. I'll go over a few more PvP reports here. So we saw or defenses lost. I had defenses lost here. Tax 1, defenses lost. So this is where he caught me out, and this is me just ghosting, and it's good that I ghosted. This guy is a huge player, and I didn't want anything to deal with him. And of course, even when you ghost, you can like take a look at his general, take a look at his buffs. 900%, it's a pretty decent, and he has really good debuffs too, decent debuffs. So it's a pretty decent general. And here's another example. I scouted the temple. No, I was here. Yeah. This, I'm not sure who I attacked here because I don't see the scout report, but I must have sniped him right when he entered the temple, and I didn't lose much. This is a big player, Raineth. Let's see why I won this one. So true buffs, I have much better true buffs, and battle detail. Yeah, he just didn't have a really strong march. I think this might be a level 32 player or a weaker player because I kill him pretty easily. I'm not going to go over it too much because I don't see the scout info. This guy is an interesting story. Someone posted on our server, this guy, a 94 million guy on the enemy server that was unbubbled. So I teleported 2 screens away from him. I ghosted and I attacked him, and it was a trap. The second I attacked him, my screen lit up red and someone tried to hit me, and I a little bit panicked. I speeded my army back and I teleported back to our server. I was really lucky that no one sniped my troops. So you have to be careful when you see these guys. It can very well be a trap, and I'm sure that if I teleported right next to him and tried to do it, then I'd be zeroed for sure. I teleported 2 screens away, and it took them a little bit longer to figure out where I was. So just be aware that people are going to try to trap you. If you send your troops out, relax, try to time it so your troops are back and you can ghost them immediately or use the bubble. So be careful of traps. People do it a lot. 100 million or 200 million power keep, and it's just a trap. So then here's another battle report where I won versus a much larger opponent. This guy is almost 1 billion, and it's a good example of attacking. I scouted. He took the temple, and he put one decent march in the temple. A really strong general, 5.7 million power, and a lot of T13 troops. And if I went up against this, I'd probably trade even, or I might even lose. So it's a really good march. You can see he has all the layers. He has a really good march at the temple, but I did scout his city a few times, and I noticed, first of all, he doesn't have no reinforcements. You go all the way down, you don't have any reinforcements. If you're under level 30, I think, and you can't see reinforcements in your scout, you can still see the number of reinforcements. You'd see here like 1 million or 2 million, so you can still see the number. So it's important to check it. Even if your watchtower is not high enough level to actually see the reinforcements, you can still see the value. Debuffs, his debuffs aren't good at all compared to mine, and his bonuses are horrible also, and they're horrible because you can see mounted troop attack, ranged troop attack, 430. So my debuff is going to cut all these by half because I can have maximum debuffs on him. Basically, the maximum debuff you can do is half. The max debuff you can debuff an enemy is half of what he has. So if he has 400, let's say, then I can debuff 200. If he has 1000, the most I can do is debuff 500. I'll probably end up debuffing 250, but on this guy I can debuff his ranged troop attack by 215 at the most. And he has bad buffs because I'm guessing he has a bad wall general, and his wall general is Joseph E. Johnston. It's only 1.1 million power, so I don't even think he's fully cultivated, and he probably doesn't even have a dragon gear, or he probably doesn't even have some basic item gears. And as far as armies, he has like 1.3 million T13 mounted troops, and these are going to get zeroed immediately. So I'm not worried about them. The only thing I'm worried about are the siege machines, because 1 million T12 siege machine and 770,000 T13 siege machines. And siege machines are really important for defense, and they are a good counter to ranged troops. So these siege machines are probably going to shred my archers. So I was just worried about the sheer amount of siege machines he had on defense. And I'm sure 500 T10s. I'm sure if he had a good wall general, he'd probably zero my army. But I just figured his wall general and his buffs are so bad that I'm gonna attack him. And I figured even if I lose, I'm gonna have a positive score just because I'm gonna zero so many mounted troops. So I went for it, and I won. I did lose a lot. I lost 70 million, but he lost 500 million. He was just defending with a bad wall general. And let's take a look at his buffs. His buffs, the main thing is attack 430 on the range and 447 on the siege. And I debuffed, as you can see, the maximum value for his ranged attack. If he has range 430 attack, I debuffed 215, so it's half of it. And the same on the siege. He has 447, and I debuffed his siege machine attack 223. So he's left with about 210 or 220 on his ranged attack and 220% on his siege machine attack. It's really bad compared to me having 1000 on my ranged troop attack and 600 defense. So his buffs are really bad, and a lot of his army was basically mounted troops. So his ground didn't kill anything almost, his range almost didn't kill anything, and his almost 1 million mounted troops didn't kill anything. And you can see the siege did kill a lot. The siege killed 240,000 of my archers probably. His ground did some damage too, but it's mainly the siege. The T12 1 million siege killed 314,000 of my troops. So if you have a good wall general with siege bonuses, then it's gonna help you defend. And this guy, he had good army for defense. He just had a really bad general, like a 1 point. I don't try to defend if your wall general is 1.1 million power. You're just gonna get zeroed. So Joseph E. Johnston is a good wall general, but this Johnston doesn't have any items probably, and probably doesn't have any good gear refines or cultivation. So he got zeroed. Let me see. Defense is lost. This is a big boy, and I just ghosted my troops. I always ghosted my troops, and I stay 2 screens away, so if I get attacked, I even get a positive score from this because he lost 500,000 power and I lost 100,000 power. So I'm gaining score just from these attacks. He's suiciding his troops on my traps. This guy, like I said, I usually, if I see a smaller opponent, I don't scout them and I immediately try to zero them. And I almost messed up on this one. He teleported to our server, and there were a bunch of guys from their alliance holding the temple. And I saw this guy. I said, I'm gonna zero him without even scouting. And I ended up hitting a bunch of reinforcements, a lot of reinforcements. And you can see here, someone had a full march of reinforcements on him. And luckily I won. As far as I know, for the reinforcements, they fight. The general that is reinforcing is the one that fights. So it hit the main guy's army, race. His army, his general and his troops were fighting with his bonuses, and the reinforcement was fighting with his general. So each guy's army is fighting with his own general. Zachary Taylor is a good wall general. I think William Marshall is the best. I zeroed him. Probably the reinforcement just wasn't good enough, but I took a lot of losses, as you can see, 81 million. True buff, his troops, his bonuses are not good, but the real problem is probably the reinforcing general, which probably killed most of my troops. So attacker, I have my layered attack, marching attack, and the defender, this guy is not very strong, so he didn't do anything. And Oliver Klozov, which is I think the either 800 mil player or the 1.7 mil bill player, and he had a decent reinforcement here, but let's just see. Most of his power, he has a lot of it in mounted troops, and the mounted troops are just gonna get zeroed by my archer. So 710,000 mounted troops, and they killed only 17 troops. They basically died for nothing. So his range killed a little bit, and his ground is really strong against archers, and his ground 340,000 ground killed about 650,000 of my archers. So the ground really helped him, but I really wouldn't send mounted troops on either attack or defense, because usually people attack with ranged and they're just gonna get zeroed and die for nothing. So I got lucky here and I managed to win the attack. Attacks lost. So this is the same guy, and I splatted on him. I did trade positive, so it still turned out pretty good. I scouted him before. I saw his army, and I saw he was sending out his main general on an attack. So I figured I'm gonna try to snipe his remaining troops, because I know when he attacks, he's sending out most of his archers. So I tried to attack. I know his wall general isn't too good, only 2.2 million power, and his buffs aren't too good. So I'll try to do it quickly. Decent buff, 700% attack, 500 on the ground attack. Decent buffs, and his subsidies are linked, because you can see he has good debuffs against enemies, so his subsidies are linked. Decent wall general. I expected to win because he barely had any archers, so he had a lot of mounted, which basically got zeroed, and 1 million archers and the ground and so on, but he didn't have too many. I thought I was going to do better, and the real thing that got me was his ground troops. The 860,000 ground troops is really, it's a big number. As soon as someone gets to like around 1 million ground troops, it's really hard to kill. Ranged troops are going to have a hard time to kill it. So my mistake was trying to kill 1 million ground troops. It's just too much. And here he has another 200,000 T12s, and he just had too many units. But when I know he has a lot of mounted troops at home, I might just trade with him, because I know I'm going to kill all the mounted and I'm going to have a positive trade even if I splash, because I'm going to zero all his mounted troops, or most of his mounted troops. So I zeroed 740,000 T14 and another 750,000 T13. But the ground troops are just too tanky, and I couldn't kill them. I only killed 71,000, and they got to my archers and zeroed them probably. So even if the ground troop buffs, he only has 446 HP on his ground troops. It's not high at all, and I probably debuffed half of it. You see, I debuffed 223. So I debuffed most of it, the HP on his ground troops, and I still couldn't kill them. So ground troops are really strong, and if you ever build a ground general, make sure you buff the HP all the way. Try to get it to 1,000. Just buff all the HP you can on your ground troops. It's really important. Let me see what else I got here. This guy. So this is I think is an important, might be one of the last battle reports I'll show you. It's a really important battle report. Maybe I'll skip this one and I'll just show you another one towards the top here. One of my last attacks. Yeah, this is another attack I lost just because, again, he just had a bunch of ground troops and I couldn't break it. I know he had bad buffs. His bonuses were really bad. Yeah, 415 to ground, and I debuffed half of it, 207. But it's just too many ground troops. When you get to the millions or so, it's really hard to break through. I thought because I have 1,000 buff attack buff on my archers that I could do it, but it's not enough. You just have too many ground troops. So you have to be careful. You can probably kill 200 to 300,000. When it gets too high, it's hard to win. This is the report I wanted to show you. This one. So I zeroed the 1.7 billion guy. He was reinforcing the hunter. He was holding the hunter temple, and I got a quick scout from my alt, and I saw the army there, and I zeroed him. And usually you're not going to be able to zero so many troops without taking any losses, especially a guy that's so strong, probably has a bunch of T14s. So I think it's an important lesson to check this report. He has a Barbarossa level 35 general, not a really strong general. I don't know what he was doing with it. But the troop buffs, I have stronger troop buffs, but even with stronger buffs, you can still fail if he has a stronger army. So, and if you see the debuffs, we're about the same. And when you attack the temple, you can't bring your subordinate cities, so it's only going to be sciences, pretty much, science bonuses, and the general bonus. And if we go to battle detail, let's see how I won versus a guy who's much stronger. And all you need to do is look at the march he had. He had ground, T14 ground, T14 range, T14 mounted, and T14 siege. So he had his basically his strongest troops, and he didn't have any layers. And this is the really important thing to remember. If you don't have layers, at least like T9, T10, T11, at least like the high level layers at the very minimum, then you're going to have a really bad time, because just these troops by themselves are much stronger than my army. I don't even have T14s. I have T13s. So his army is much stronger, but he doesn't have any layers. And I have a lot of layers. I have 1,000 of each, of every layer. T13, 1,000 of each. And T12, 1,000 of each. And so on. I lost some siege machines, so I only have... I have 1,000 siege machines also. 954 dead and 446 alive. So I'll basically explain how it works. The layers, why this attack was so one-sided. If I'm fighting a stronger opponent with a stronger army, why the attack was so one-sided. The attack works as each troop gets a turn. All my army gets one turn, all my layers get one turn, and all his layers get one turn. So let's say I have my mounted troops go. I have my T13 attack, my T12 mounted, my T11, my T10, my T9, my T. They're all marching towards him, and his ranged troops get a wave. So his ranged troops get one attack, and they kill my T13 mounted troops, and my ranged troops are going to get an attack, and they're going to kill his T14 mounted troops. And then I'm going to have my T12 mounted troops have an attack, and his ranged are going to have an attack turn and going to kill my T12 mounted troops. And then my ranged troops are going to have a turn, and they're going to zero his ground troops. And then my T11 or T10 mounted troops are going to have a turn, and his ranged troops are going to attack my T10 or T11 mounted troops. And then my ranged troops are going to have another attack, and they're going to zero his ranged troops. So his ranged troops and mounted and ground are going to have to go through all my layers before my archers. They're going to have to go through all my 13 layers of mounted troops and 13 layers of ground troops before he can attack my ranged. I think the siege machines... you can see the siege machines did kill a few troops of mine. The siege machines, I think they attack my backline. I think they attack over the mounted and ground troops, and they will attack my archers. So that's why siege machines are really good for defense. But his mounted and ranged and ground, they're going to have to go through all my layers of mounted troops and ground troops. And I have 13 layers of mounted troops and 13 layers of ground troops, and only 1,000 troops each. I don't expect them to kill anything. I just expect them to tank a wave. So while his ground and archers are busy firing at my basically fodder, my 1,000 mounted troop layers, my archers are just gonna zero them one by one, and I only need 4 turns. I only need 1 turn to zero his mounted, 1 turn to zero his ranged, and 1 turn to zero his ground troops. And I also have layers of ranged. I have T13 and I have T12, decent amount of T12 ranged as well, which also killed 260,000 troops. So if you don't have the layers, then I'm gonna get more turns attacking you, because you're gonna waste your attacking turns attacking my fodder, my layers, 1,000 troops, and basically not killing anything. I don't care if I lose 1,000 ground troops, because on my turn I'm gonna kill 400,000 mounted troops. So I've seen a lot of people attack on our server with attacks like this, and it might work. You might have gotten lucky. I even see some of our stronger players attack like this. You have to use layers, especially when you start fighting stronger opponents, or you're gonna get zeroed and it's not gonna work. So just go to your city before battlefield or anything, city buffs, and just do it once before server war. Go to your march size buff, march size capacity, increase it, and then go and set your presets in the rally hall. Make sure you have, it doesn't have to be 1,000. It can be, I think it can be 500 or 100. I don't think it matters. I'm afraid I'll lose some of them to traps, so I try to have it at 1,000 of each. And go to your rally spot, march preset, and make sure you have 1,000 of each if you want to have good attacks. So I have all these on 1,000 basically. You can't see it right now because my march size doesn't have the march size buff, but when I have the march size buff, everything here is 1,000. And my archers, I usually send a lot of T13s, and I still send a lot of T12s and T11s because they're also a layer and they get a chance to attack. So it's good to have T12s and T11 archers as well. So here you have like 800,000. So on the T12 I'll have like 400,000, and on T11 I'll have like 200,000. So do it. Make sure you have it. It's gonna improve your attack. It's gonna help you beat stronger opponents. And just remember, you saw my attacks. Even on the attacks I failed, I traded positive. Try to attack people that you can win or that you can counter. People that have 2 million calves, people that have a bad wild general. Just relax, be calm, try to get a scout report from World Chat, and just select the right targets to trade with, and you're gonna have a positive score, and we're gonna win server war by playing smart, ghosting troops, and making smart attacks. So it's possible to win against stronger opponents, and we just have to play smart. Everyone did a good job basically on our server, and we even fought for the throne, and I saw a bunch of people ghosting their troops, and almost no one got hit. Just to see the negative scores on our server, a lot of people didn't get hit and ghosted really well. So good job, and I hope this video helped everyone, and have a good week. And hopefully we'll probably have to start rallying enemies next server war and 2 server wars, because when enemies get too big, you just can't hit them alone. When people get to the 1 billion size, you can't really hit them alone. A solo march, you're gonna have to start rallying. So work on your generals, and we'll probably have to start doing that soon. Have a good week, guys.